I just gotta ask, what the fuck is going on in CCT lately? Because 2025 just started and it already seems to be a PR nightmare for them.
Oh no! No!
And so today we're going to be looking at every single incident that's happened this year. Now, I don't say any of this as a hater. CCT fills a very important role in the Counter-Strike ecosystem, and these tournaments are no easy feat to pull off in terms of production. But at the same time, it's tier 3 Counter-Strike, and with the dozens of events that CCT runs, there's just bound to be a lot of messy situations.
Oh my goodness, they all just lost internet. Okay. The entire team just lost their internet.
Some of these are caused by the players, but some of them are also caused by the tournament organizers themselves. And now with Valve coming in and enforcing their stupid rules on everyone that wants to host a relevant tournament, the entire Counter-Strike scene has just gotten muddier.
Oh, he just killed himself.
So with all the mayhem that's already happening in 2025, we just gotta ask, what the fuck is happening in CCT? So starting on January 15th, 3 CCT events were granted exceptions from Valve, and this was a good thing. Basically what this means is that if you want to host a ranked event, you need to follow a whole lot of rules that Valve has outlined. One of these rules being giving proper timelines for events, but Valve can also give exceptions to their own rules. So CCT getting these exceptions from Valve showed that they want to do their best to comply with Valve's new rules, even when their events don't follow them. But these exceptions didn't last very long, as just 2 days later on January 17th, all CCT events were stripped of their Valve ranked status. So the events that were just given exceptions to be ranked were already back to being unranked. But why the sudden change? Well, another one of Valve's rules that all ranked events have to follow is that all invited teams must be based off of Valve's own rankings. But turns out CCT decided to basically completely ignore this. In an article on this situation, HLTV explained that the company running CCT, they have connections to the integrity committee of a betting site, and this integrity committee, they sort of evaluate how sus a team or a player is, and basically make a blacklist of teams in order to keep cheaters and match fixers out of their events. This is something that CCT has been using for quite a while now, and while I think this kind of thing is a very important thing to have in Counter-Strike, it directly goes against Valve's new rules. And so for some of the 2025 CCT events, with the consideration of the Integrity Committee, CCT decided to skip over teams for invitations, so Valve said, you're not allowed to do that, your events are now unranked. Valve simply does not care about what the Integrity Committee thinks, and we'll see later why this was a bad idea. But you might be asking right now, what's the big deal about events being ranked or not? Why is it so important? Well, like I said, Valve demands that invites to events be based off their Valve rankings. 2025 is a very stacked year for big events, all of which will be ranked, and of course, teams want to be invited to these. But with unranked events, while there is money to be won, winning games in these events does not help their Valve rating. So if you're a team that's trying to get invited to bigger events, there's essentially no incentive for you to play in unranked events. Some players have argued how unranked events are actually a good thing, how teams can try out new strategies without worrying about its consequences, but they still won't help you in the rankings if you win, and we saw how teams reacted to this news. After CCT was announced to be unranked again, multiple teams withdrew from their events. BetBoom, who was just a playoff invite, would withdraw, and also OG, who had actually already been playing in the entire event. OG fought through the group stage to make it to playoffs, but then both teams decided yeah, there's some money here, but there's nothing for us to win here, so they both withdrew. In my opinion, Valve's new systems are just terrible, and they're doing far more damage to the scene than good. And this is not the last time in the video we will see VRS fucking up the system. It also turns out this wasn't the only disaster for CCT on January 17th. Earlier in the day, a player in their South American tournament was caught cheating. If I told you to pick out the cheater from this scoreboard, it'd probably take you like 8 guesses before you got it right, because this cheater was just so terrible at the game even with cheats. In fact, he was so terrible that not even his teammates had any clue that he was cheating. So how did he get caught? Well, it was actually his coach who noticed some suspicious play out of him. So after the game, he talked to CCT admins and they said that, yeah, their anti-cheat pinged this guy. So this guy, Floki, and his team called 2070 were disqualified from the event after just 1 game. Time is But a Window made a video looking at this guy's demos, which I'll have linked. And while it's not super clear what exact cheat he was using, his play is super inconsistent. Some rounds he'll hit a great shot or have some really good awareness, but other rounds it's like he doesn't even know what map he's playing. And as I was looking into this incident more, it left me wondering if this whole situation could have been avoided. Let me explain. Looking at Liquipedia, we can see that 2070 was invited to CCT through the Valve rankings. But when we look into the details of the Valve rankings, we can see that Floki is not on this team's VRS roster yet, meaning he was a recent addition. But after he got caught cheating, I saw some comments about how this kid was already a known cheater. And if we think back to the last story about how CCT was deciding their invites with the guidance of an integrity committee, I wonder if this whole situation could have been avoided. In the past, players like Milky have explained how they've been denied from teams and contracts because of their perceived integrity. So I'm curious if this committee was aware of Floki, and if he or the team would have been invited to CCT if they were allowed to make their invites at their own discretion, but that's something we'll never know. Having a cheater exposed at your event is obviously not a good look, but I don't think you can blame CCT here at all. And this next incident is something I don't think you can blame CCT for, but instead Valve. On January 25th, an elimination match was played between Apogee and Chimera in their 17th European Series. Each team won the other's map pick, but one of the Chimeras ran into technical issues before map 3 would start, so Chimera would have to use their coach in his place. Map 3 looked like it'd be a blowout as Apogee was in the lead 9-3, but then Chimera would mount a comeback and narrowly win 13-11. It was an impressive comeback, but the celebration wouldn't last long as 2 days later, CCT announced that the result of the game would be overturned. The reason being that while their coach was initially approved as a sub, he was not on their VRS roster, meaning Chimera had no eligible VRS roster to play with for that third map, and CCT would have to forfeit them in order to stay compliant with Valve's rules. It sucks for Chimera, and this situation just exposes another flaw in Valve's new rules, being that there's really no wiggle room for emergency subs. And believe it or not, but this is not the only overturned result we're looking at in this video. We've already seen in this video that CCT has had troubles with the new invite system, and that first incident would not be their last. We're jumping forward to February now. CCT is gearing up for the 18th installment of their European Series, which was set to start on February 4th, and on February 1st, they announced all of the invited teams for every stage. But then on February 3rd, one day before the event is set to start, guess what? Surprise! CCT announces that they used the wrong version of the Valve rankings for their invites, and they then gave the properly amended invite list. For the majority of the teams already invited, this didn't mean anything, but for some teams it meant that they would no longer be playing. Most notably, M80, BetBoom, and Metasport, who all had playoff invites to CCT, were now no longer invited at all. And this mistake from CCT left a very confused and sour taste in the mouths of the team's fans. Now, while all the previous situations can be seen as pretty serious, the next one we're going to look at is actually kinda silly. In the previously mentioned CCT event, we had an opening match on February 4th between Aurora and Ninjas in Pajamas. On the first two maps, each team won the other's map pick and everything was fine, but on map 3, there was a problem. You see, there was another event going on at the same time, the open qualifiers for a Blast event, and actually both teams wanted to forfeit map 3 of this CCT event so that they could play in the open qualifier. But what do you do when both teams want to forfeit? Like, you know you need a winner, but how do you decide it?
Look, we're gonna be the losers tonight, alright? I don't think so. There's no way you can lose to us.
Well, CCT's answer was to flip a coin, and the coin said that Nip was the winner, so they won by default. Nip would proudly post to Twitter that yes, they are the coin flip winners by default, but this result would only stand for about 5 hours. After their Blast qualifier games concluded, both Aurora and NIP decided that, yeah, they kinda do want to play that map 3 of that series. So they played Ancient, and as it turns out, Aurora would be the ones to win the map and the series. So the match was decided by a coin flip because both teams wanted to forfeit, and then they decided that they actually don't want to forfeit, and the result was the opposite of the coin flip. Not only is it just absurd to have a match decided like this, but I guess this best of 3 might also be the longest best of 3 in history, as it took about 9 hours from start to finish. 2025 has been a rough start for CCT, as there has been a whole lot of disorder in it, and how do you own disorder? I know some of these issues like the cheater situation aren't CCT's fault, and frankly Valve's new rules are just straight trash, so I really hope CCT can figure this all out. Their tournaments are crucial to the scene and would be greatly missed if anything should happen to them. Tell me your thoughts about these situations down in the comments. YouTube thinks you'll really like the videos on screen right now. Thank you for watching and subscribe for future videos.